running up the score.
Jerry Napoleonello.
This team has been on the clock for 4 months now. Why are we taking this down to the 4-minute mark? You know, you have 10 minutes here. 10 minutes here, but you've had 4 months.
The dude's got 1,021 text messages that he hasn't read yet. Did we not notice that?
Kevin Donlin.
Bryce Harper's a great player. He's very, very talented. Aside from last year, but I blame myself. I'm pretty sure I'm the reason for that with fantasy baseball.
That's disgusting.
Wow.
I can't believe that's real. I mean, again, I'm not. I shouldn't hate. I'm not going to be the kind of person that hates.
No,
He is doing enough hating for the both of us.
As a Cowboys fan, the expectations are so high, and it's just, you're dug into the ground by the end of the season.
You're basically like what the Patriots are, but like you try to do it, but you just don't.
No.
Yeah. At least the Jets, you know what I mean? They have excuses.
This is Running Up the Score, your one-stop spot for all things sports. Now here's your hosts, Jerry Napoleonello and Kevin Donlin.
we are back. Running up the score finally. It's been a while. Maybe not in the usual way, like sitting next to each other, or in this case, Kevin even being here. But it's nice talking sports again. We're back. Running up the score, Jerry Napoleonello. No Kevin Donlin today. First, go become a patron of ours for behind-the-scenes content. Then go leave us a voicemail at 516-324-8725. Again, right before we started the last show, we put up some new show merchandise. You can check those out at www.tpublic.com/RUTS Sports. Now back to regularly scheduled programming. That's a little bit of a tongue twister there. But we're in tough times right now in the world. We've all, in the New York area and most of the United States, have been on lockdown. In our homes without being able to do anything other than go to the store for food or work for our essential workers out there. Some or most of us have lost jobs. Some of us have dealt with the virus personally, whether it be yourself going through it or a family member or friend. Unfortunately, we have lost many lives thus far due to this terrible pandemic we are going through right now. These are crazy times, and we're, the times that we're living in right now, and we, and I say we as in me and Kevin. Obviously, Kevin is here in spirit, I guess you could say. We wanted to personally send our prayers for everyone that has dealt with this virus and anything else going on when it comes to this pandemic, this virus. Like I said, a lot of us are out of jobs. I'm one of them. I'm dealing with not having a job. Obviously, I have a job when this ends. But as of right now, technically I'm not essential. So, unemployment it is. But, a lot of people are dealing with this. This is uncharted territory, I guess you could say, or, just something that we've never dealt with before, ever. Or at least in our lifetimes, our parents' lifetimes. I won't say in our parents' lifetime because they've dealt with some things back then, but this is just crazy. This is absolutely insane. To be in the house now for 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks, I guess you could say. It's just, I don't know what to do with myself. There's really no other way of putting it. I've played my video games. I've built if you can go to foco.com, FOCO.com. They have all different sports stuff if you're a sports fan. It's like another version of Legos, but it's not Legos. They have stadiums. You can make stadiums. So I ended up buying AT&T Stadium, obviously, because I'm a Cowboys fan. And I bought Yankee Stadium. And I finished AT&T Stadium probably in about 5 days or so. I enjoy it. But at this point, it's like there's really nothing to do, so that you're just spending all your time on that. Like, regularly something like that would take weeks, but because you have no time, like you have all the time in the world, and you can do this and sit down and do this for hours. I did it in 5 days. Now I'm working on Yankee Stadium, and I'm like, I don't know when I'm actually going to be able to get out of the house, so I'm going to take my time with this. I'm deciding to put out a couple of shows now. I want to get some content out there. It's tough right now with the way me and Kevin's schedule, or just mainly his schedule, just because, we wanted to do a show basically because there's really nothing else to talk about in sports other than some of the things that I'll talk about today. So I just wanted to, kind of fill in everything that has happened from our last show to today. And then eventually after that, hopefully next week after Easter, again, I didn't say it before, but happy Good Friday to everybody. I'm hoping to get this show out there today. If not, you'll probably get it on Saturday. So now it's Friday that I'm recording this. But it's with our schedules, he's still working. So it's it's kind of crazy trying to figure out a time. And like after the show, I wanted to do and I want to do a show on each division when it comes to football, when it comes to baseball as well. Just because, I feel like, we got the draft coming up in 2 weeks in the NFL, or a week and a half, I guess you could say, it's going to be interesting overall. And I'm hoping to do a show that day as well, like we did last year, which was fun. We're going to obviously be doing it from each other's houses. So I don't know if you guys remember from back a couple of years ago, we did a show where he was at home and I was at home, and we were doing a show from there. So we're going to do something like that. And, we'll continue to do that as much as we can. I'm hoping that I can get Kevin to come on and do some shows, especially with this. But I also wanted to add a dynamic to it, and I wanted to have people that are fans of, these teams join in on the conversation. I want them to join in on the Skype conversation. So I'm going to post when we're going to do it, maybe the day before or something like that, right before we do it. And I'll just, ask whoever wants in, and whoever wants in will give the information out, and we'll just talk about that division. So the first division that we're going to end up talking about is the AFC East. When we're going to start with football because the draft is coming so close. So I wanted to get, shows out on, the football divisions first. And, who knows when baseball is going to come back, if it even does. And I wanted to discuss that. So today we're going to discuss basically everything that has happened from the last time we had a show to now. Some big news just came out today, so we'll discuss that. But, overall, I wanted to just kind of give our own experiences. I was hoping that Kevin would be able to do the show, but he just can't. And, in his aspect, his situation, he's still working. So he's working every day. So it's kind of tough to figure out a time to do this. He's exhausted. So, I understand it, but I just wanted to get content out there for everybody that does, actually listen to us and likes listening to us. It like I said, it's been crazy, especially, in my household. We dealt with the virus itself. Luckily, nothing has happened, that has been traumatic other than, someone in the family getting it. so it's been crazy, walking around the house in masks, going to the store with a mask on, with gloves on, seeing everybody else with masks and gloves on, going to the store and having to stand outside because they're not allowing that many people in the store at a time. I can't say this enough. Like, it's crazy. It is absolutely crazy what we're dealing with right now. It's unfortunate, when it comes to things like this, and we've dealt with some big things. September 11th is one of the biggest, if not the biggest thing that's happened until this point. We, as New Yorkers, we have lost more lives due to COVID-19 as to September 11th. So both of these are historic, absolute tragedies, when it comes to the United States as a whole, even the world. So when it comes down to like things like this, like, most people fall back on sports. Like that's what we do. We fall back on sports because it's that 3 hours of, time that you don't have to think of your real life problems. And that's what everybody loves. That's why it's such a big thing when it comes to sports. Just people love the getaway. And whether it's on TV or you're at the game, it's just a getaway. 3 hours of a getaway. And unfortunately, when it comes to this, sports is gone. We have reverted to watching old games or watching highlights of old games or, trying to figure out different kind of things. Like us here at Running Up the Score, we tried to do a tournament, obviously, because, we lost March Madness. We tried to do a tournament bracket when it comes to jersey numbers. And, we had, I don't know if anybody has noticed, but, we had a NBA region, NFL, MLB, and NHL. And we just kind of just went by the 16 biggest numbers that have, or the biggest players that have worn these numbers when it comes to that respective sport. And we're down to the Final Four now. And, I made up a bracket and everything for it, and I actually have it right here. It was fun. It was fun to do. It was interesting, through my research of it, just going through teams and just going through numbers and players. And just, one of the biggest things is like players, people look at Michael Jordan. Oh, he's number 23, always number 23. But, some people, big sports fans and big NBA fans and even big Michael Jordan fans know that he wore 45, when he came back from retirement first. So like things like that, like you're seeing, like I was just going through teams and going through players and, how many times different players have changed numbers and different times that player wore this, number and nobody even remembers. And it even came down to my own co-host, Kevin. I posted the matchup. I think it was in the NHL division. Yeah, there's the NHL division, and it was number 19 against number 22. And I listed, I had the three. I tried to put like the top players that wore that number as, the main picture of that number. And then I listed other notable names. And for number 22, I had Brian Leach. So as a New Yorker, obviously as a rival of the New York Rangers, Kevin texted me after I posted, and he's like, dude, Brian Leach wasn't 22. He was number 2. I was like, no, I know, but Brian Leach played for the Boston Bruins, and he wore number 22 for the Boston Bruins. So that's the reason why I did that. I thought it was cool. I thought it was fun to do. It was interesting. I learned a lot. Maybe not as many people, looking at this or voting on these jersey numbers, but it was fun to research. And obviously there's nothing going on. If anybody doesn't have anything going on, I mean, just have fun. Look up, players or look up a jersey number and just look at, who wore those numbers. They have on the internet, if you just type in a number, and players that wore that number in that sport, it comes up with a whole list and how many years they wore it and, what year they wore it and what team they wore it for and this and that. It was just fun. It was fun, and our Final Four has come down to number 24 in the NBA region. Obviously, Kobe Bryant being the poster child for that. In the NFL region, we have Tom Brady's number 12. Obviously it's more than just Tom Brady. It's so many other players, and I like looking at that number was insane. I wish I had the paper that I had, because I listed all of them. But you have Aaron Rodgers, you have Tom Brady. It was just the players that have worn that number. Roger Staubach. It was insane. And I would not be surprised if everybody picks number 12 to win it all, because I mean it's definitely iconic. It's an iconic number. When we had with Major League Baseball's region, we had number 2. I had number 2 as the number 16 seed, mainly only because of Derek Jeter. If Derek Jeter did not wear number 2, that number would not be on this list. And I guess, maybe just being in the New York region and having, most of the people that follow our show, being from New York, picked Derek Jeter's number 2. So he beat out, number 42, obviously Mariano Rivera, Jackie Robinson. That number is insane. He beat out number 5. You have Joe DiMaggio, you have guys like that. That was another great number. That was the 8th seed. Derek Jeter's number 2 ended up beating out number 25, which also I was surprised at because of how many players wore that number. When you go to it, you look at Barry Bonds, you look at Mark McGwire. You go down you got Gleyber Torres as of right now. It was just Jason Giambi, Mark Teixeira, just going down the list. It was a crazy number, and the number 2 beat that out, and he just that number 2 just couldn't beat the 24, which is you understand it as well. That's another iconic number. So the 24 is representing the baseball, Major League Baseball. Number 12 representing NFL. Number 24 also beating out the NBA's bracket. And then you have number 99 in hockey. 4 other players only wore that number, and just the fact that Wayne Gretzky did, he has that number in the Final Four. So it would be pretty interesting if 24 was to beat out number 12 and then 24 was to beat out number 99. Obviously, we would understand that 24 is the most iconic number. Again, this is not, we don't have millions of followers like ESPN or, any of those other sports channels and stuff like that. So we're not getting as many people to vote, but you see where people are leaning towards, and it's interesting. So 24, 12, 99, and 24 are the Final Four in the jersey number madness, running up the score. So, going into some real sports now. As I said, it's just a very interesting time, and I had a timeline, that I got off of the internet of just like everything that has happened from the beginning of this whole journey, or however you want to put this interesting time that we're living in now. And I remember exactly what happened. I mean, we were hearing about the whole thing going on in China and what was going on and how it was just wiping out the whole place. And it was only inevitable that it was going to end up here. And it was just a wait and see kind of thing. And, people started to panic a little bit. And then it got to a point where, it got here. And, everybody started to, hear about it. And then, I want to say the turning point of this whole thing was Rudy Gobert testing positive. I mean, it was insane because we were talking about, the sports were talking about doing games without fans, and I think one or two games ended up having no fans. And then all of a sudden, you have I want to say it was the Mavericks and the Jazz. They're playing on March 11th, Wednesday, and right before the game started, literally right before the game started, everybody was told to leave. The game was canceled. And nobody really knew what was going on, but they just said it has something to do with the COVID-19. Then within 5 minutes or so, 10 minutes, it comes out that Rudy Gobert tested positive. And then literally right after that, the NBA suspended its season. Then it was a wait and see. All right, what's the NHL going to do? The NHL ends up suspending the season, I think, the day after or 2 days after. Then it just started to escalate. We found out that Donovan Mitchell tested positive. And then, all the college divisions the conferences started to cancel their conference tournaments. Then it was like, all right, well, we have March Madness coming up. What's going to happen there? March Madness gets canceled. And I think that was like the first big domino to fall. I mean, obviously, it started out with the NBA and, suspending the season. But then you completely cancel the tournament, which was insane. And it dominoed from there. Everything happened from there. Now we're in a complete lockdown. You're not even allowed to leave your house technically unless you're going to the store. You're not allowed to be in a group of more than, I think, 10 people now. People are getting charged for having too many people in their house or having a party or whatever. It's insane. It's insane. And it's scary. I mean, for a lot of these people, it's scary. And I think the scariest part of this whole thing is you just don't know. The fact that, people can be carrying this for however many days without even knowing it and just, passing it on to people without even knowing it. That's scary. The fact that, it started out, as it was hurting the most for people that were at risk because of, a lower immune system, because of, something else, going on with them, or older people. Then it's turning into, all right, now a 25-year-old, losing his life, just without any underlying issues. That's a scary thing. It's hitting people, and, some people are getting through it and some people aren't. And that's the problem. We're running out of, ventilators, where they don't even have enough room in the morgue for people, that they have to bring in freezer trucks to let these people, these people that have passed away, they need places to put them. It's crazy. And this year has been a crazy one, and we're only in the fourth month of it. I mean, it's crazy. I'm supposed to get married this year. People are getting their weddings canceled, their weddings pushed back, and usually you give out a save the date. Now they're selling change the dates. And I feel terrible for the people that have had their weddings canceled or pushed back. Trust me, with with me and my fiance Nicole's wedding, I mean, we've been planning this for close to 3 years now. You know, we got engaged in December of 2017. This has been a long time coming for us to get to this year, just to get to this year. Now we're finally, months away. And I mean, we don't know. There's a chance that it's not going to happen. So I mean, I keep saying it, but it's crazy. I mean, I'm not taking off my hat because I don't want people to see my hair. I mean, I haven't had a haircut in God knows how long. I mean, if I didn't have the scare that we had here, I'd still have a beard, and the beard was getting big, it's getting thick. I had to shave it, but I mean, it's coming in. This is like 3-4 days now. Not bad. But continuing on now to like present day stuff. We had breaking news today that just came out right before I came on. The XFL has canceled its season for good. They canceled, not just the season, because they canceled the season a couple, 2 weeks ago or so, 3 weeks ago. And at that time when they canceled it, they mentioned that, yeah, we're totally having a 2021 season. Well, now they have suspended all operations, and they have laid off all of their employees. And now they're saying they don't expect to have a season in 2021. So it's sad. I thought it was really coming along. I was having fun watching it. It's interesting to have football in the spring, summer, however you want to say it. But now, when it comes to the NFL, now the NFL could now, and we mentioned this when the XFL first came out, and how dynamic their rule changes were, and if the NFL would try to adapt the changes. And I said, listen, if it folds like the AAF, you can see the NFL taking some of their rule changes. The most dynamic rule changes, as we spoke about on multiple occasions, was the kickoff. And I'm interested to see if the NFL now would maybe take that into consideration. The NFL is already talking about taking away the pass interference review, which was understandable. I think the refs as a whole, this is just speculation. I'm not, I have there's no facts behind this, but I have a feeling that the NFL refs were kind of upset with that rule, that you can review pass interference, and it was kind of like, you don't trust our calls. So the fact that they were going to be reviewing these pass interference calls, they were just going to side with whatever call was on the field, because they don't want to overturn and make it seem like they were wrong. So I think, why we had that big percentage of, it never being overturned, basically, was that reason. Again, speculation, no facts behind it. That's how I see it. But yeah, the XFL has canceled the season, canceled overall, and it seems like it's not going to come back now. Then with the MLB, we have the first thing that came out was the union and the MLB plan to start as early as May in Arizona. All the teams would play in Arizona. It'd be an interesting factor, but like they were saying, that there's a lot of things that they have to work out, they have to iron out. But one of the downfalls to that was players and coaches would have to be away from their family for like 4.5 months. And a lot of this is based on testing. And, that's the same thing with the NFL. That's the same thing with the NBA. That's the same thing with the NHL. These sports are not going to come back unless there's an abundance of testing. And when it comes to with baseball and, the NBA and the NHL, NHL and the NBA are, they were, the NHL was actually supposed to start their playoffs yesterday. Was it yesterday or the day before? One of the two. So that's how close they were to the end of the season. They were that close, and it sucks for some teams. The Flyers were on fire, the Rangers were on fire, the Islanders were on a downswing. Then you look at the NBA, the Lakers. This was like the perfect year for them. And now you may even lose Anthony Davis because Anthony Davis is a free agent now. So it's like overall, it's crazy when you think about everything that's going on in sports now. And the NBA, there's some pessimism that it may not come back. And I like the more and more we go, the more I can see it not coming back. Just because, yeah, I understand, obviously everything keeps getting pushed back. They keep pushing back the lockdown, the stay-at-home law. But overall, when is it going to be to a point? You had, someone in one of the people on the council in I think it's the safety council or whatever it is in California say we're not going to get sports back until Thanksgiving. And he also said we'd be lucky to get it back in Thanksgiving. So, that's in November, people. So it's this whole thing is crazy. That would bypass the whole MLB season. That would bypass half of the NFL season. NBA and NHL would be basically towards the middle of their season as well. Maybe not middle of their season, but it's the craziest thing of this whole thing with sports is we don't know. And that's the biggest issue is there's no facts. There's no, when is this going to end? We don't know. It's starting to look like, how everybody says flattening the curve. It's starting to look like we're getting to that peak. But how long is that down peak going to be? That down slope? When is it going to be a point where we can all get out of the house and go about our regular life stuff? Like, when are we going to be able to go back to work? When are we all going to be able to, be in a larger crowd of people without the fear of getting sick? We don't know. Now they're saying that we should never even shake hands again. Life as we knew it is completely ready to change. And it has changed. And when it comes to future, I think it's changing. All because of one illness. It's insane. It really is insane. But now baseball is talking about coming back in and totally scrambling up the divisions. There would be no American League, no National League. It'll be Grapefruit League, Cactus League. So the Grapefruit League, obviously, if you know what you're talking about in baseball, that's the spring training leagues, their conferences. And Grapefruit is in Florida, Cactus is in Arizona. So all the teams that play in the Grapefruit League would play teams only in the Grapefruit League. Teams in the Cactus League would only play teams that are in the Cactus League. So the divisions would go by proximity to each other. You know, the stadiums that they play in. So when it comes down to it, you know, they're all going to be the spring training stadiums. No fans. They're going to add 3 Major League Baseball stadiums that are in the area. Marlins Park. You have the Diamondbacks stadium as well. And you also have Tropicana. So those are the fields that they would use on top of the spring training fields as well. And then the champions of each conference would end up playing each other in a World Series in, I guess, November, I think it is. So, it's, like, again, it's crazy. You know, the times that we're living in now, you're starting to see, you know, how creative people are. You know, how bored people are. How crazy some people are. And then how idiotic some people are. You know, a lot of people are bashing these athletes that are going out and working out with other people, or, you know, just working out outside and stuff like that. And, you know, in one sense, I have to agree with them, because, you know, if the everyday person is not allowed out either, what makes you so special that you get to be out? And, you know, vice versa, you know, stuff like that. So it's interesting, but I want to continue on, you know, with everything else that's going on. We have some, you know, interesting things that have happened over the last couple of weeks. You know, the NFL, obviously Tom Brady signed with the Buccaneers. He was on the Howard Stern show, and he discussed some things that, you know, not a lot of people knew. And the main headline out of this 2-hour or so, whatever, you know, interview it was, because, you know, I worked at Sirius. I got my Sirius XM radio taken away from me after I, you know, left there. So, you know, my free subscription went down the drain, unfortunately. I loved it too. It's amazing to have, and I understand why people love it. But it is very expensive. I'm not even gonna lie about that. It is very expensive, and I understand why people can't have it. So I was gonna listen to this interview, and I didn't want to pay for it. That was basically it. I didn't want to pay for it, so I called somebody that I knew over there, and I was like, you know, could you send me the interview? And they were willing to do it, but he was like, oh, it's 2 hours long, and I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna listen to it then. So I've been listening to little clips here and there, but the headline of this whole interview was that he knew his last season with the Patriots was going to be last season, and before the season even started, he knew. So that was interesting to everybody, because everybody thought that his best chance, you know, of going on to a different team was low, because everybody thought that he was just going to go back to the Patriots. And that changed. Also, that his wife played a big role. She wanted him to play a bigger role at home, which is why he skipped OTAs. So that's interesting as well. You know, we've never seen or heard Tom Brady in this, I guess, the way that this whole thing went down. You know, everybody saw him. He's, you know, the face of the New England Patriots, has been his whole life, or his whole career. He's never been a free agent until now, and I think it's better for both of the teams that, he moves on, and there's no ill feelings towards each other. They're not even in the same conference anymore, so it's gonna be fun. I think if you look at that team, they really needed a quarterback. Jameis Winston wasn't doing it for him. And I think that team's offense is gonna be dynamic. Mike Evans is a great wide receiver. To have Tom Brady, one of the, to have the greatest quarterback throwing to you helps immensely. But I was listening to the Dan Patrick Show, and he had Daniel Jeremiah, the NFL reporter, and he brought up an interesting thing, a what if type of comment. And he said Tom Brady would have won at least 10 Super Bowls if he was drafted by the Ravens. And you think about it, you're like, maybe, no, I don't know. But when you really look at that team was special. And that team was special without a great quarterback. I mean, they won a Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer, and they won a Super Bowl with Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco that year was great, though. Don't get me wrong. But just put that in the same list as Tom Brady, and I don't think any one of those quarterbacks are even close to Tom Brady. So when you add Tom Brady, an athlete as great as Tom Brady, you add it to that team. You look at that team. Ed Reed. You look at Ray Lewis. You look at Shannon Sharp. You look at, just everybody on that team. Ogden. That was a great team, for many years. You add Tom Brady to that. That's a special team, and I do understand where Daniel Jeremiah is coming from. And I'm siding with him on that. So it's now, in the times that we're in, it's fun to look at what ifs. It's fun to, do like different things. And I'll bring up basically what we're all doing now, but I'll bring it up at the end. But the NFL front offices are worried about the draft process. Teams think it's unfair that Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones will be able to be together because they're family. The league discussed timeouts during the draft, but it doesn't look like they're going to do it because of tech issues and possible trades and stuff like that. You don't want, something to go down because of a tech issue to the point where now a team's not able to draft somebody. So that the whole draft process is going to be interesting. It was going to be interesting if everything stayed the same, where we were going to have it in Las Vegas. They were going to be on a boat to go to the stage and this and that. It was going to be interesting either way, but now it's going to be interesting because it's going to be a FaceTime or Zoom NFL draft. The NFL rookies had to have meetings with teams through FaceTime or Zoom. Zoom has had issues with hacking, so that's why other teams are starting to worry about stuff like that. They're worried that other teams will hack their Zoom or whatever and find out who they want to draft and this and that. The NFL free agency was different, with players that, they had hard times getting physicals. That was the issue. Everybody being locked down, you're not allowed to leave. These players that had just signed through the legal tampering time, or even when free agency started, they couldn't even do their physicals with the team because they couldn't get there, and these players were having to have physicals done where they live and have it sent. And one of the casualties to this was Michael Brockers. He had to deal with the Ravens, and it fell through mainly because he couldn't get a physical. He couldn't get to the Rams to get a physical, to the Ravens to get a physical. Then when he did actually get a physical done, the team was worried about his ankle injury, and they decided to get rid of the contract. So Michael Brockers had to go back to the Rams, and he ended up signing back with the Rams. So it's just that's the issues that we've gone through in the NBA. As I said, there's some pessimism that the regular season will resume again. The NBA, as I said, was also the essentially it looked like the breaking point. And another interesting in the NBA, Kevin Garnett, obviously longtime Timberwolves, longtime Boston Celtic, and even the Nets. That we don't have to remember that, but with the Timberwolves, he doesn't want his number retired with the Timberwolves until Greg Taylor, the owner, is no longer the owner of the team. Now, I never really heard anything about this whole issue, but I started to read up on it, and supposedly when Flip Saunders was there, when Kevin Garnett went back to the T-Wolves, he had a deal with Flip Saunders that he was gonna be a part of the team, own a part of the team or whatever it was, or run part of the team. And when Flip ended up passing away, that whole deal literally went away with Flip Saunders. And Kevin Garnett sees Greg Taylor as a snake, basically, and that's one of the words that he actually called Greg Taylor, but I'm not going to say the rest of it because it's not appropriate. But yeah, that's just another interesting story that's going on. The NHL, the biggest question is, will it come back? And I know my co-host, we've talked about just doing a show, so we've discussed what we want to talk about, and he's like, I just don't see it coming. Kevin was just like, I don't see the NHL coming back just because of, the amount of time that these players have had off, and then having to come back and just train to get back. All these players, all these teams, and all these athletes will have to have some kind of, in baseball, spring training, in football, and basketball, and hockey, they would have some kind of training camp to get themselves back into that shape of playing, and when it comes down to the NBA and the NHL, that shape usually, at this point in their season, they're in playoff shape now. You've dealt with the whole season. Now you're in now you're in the shape to play in the playoffs. So, it's just, it's insane. But one of the things, UFC 249 was just canceled yesterday. It was supposed to be coming April 18th, and they were talking about everything. Fight Island, Dana White was talking about. ESPN and Disney, they just didn't feel comfortable doing this, and essentially ended up, forcing Dana White's hand, and he had to cancel it. It's not technically canceled. It's suspended. It's postponed. It will eventually happen. It's better off because we were going to see Tony Ferguson and Khabib fight in this match, in this, this card, and because of the lockdowns, Khabib couldn't get out to even come here, so then they had to fill that spot. So it's just probably better off that this is pushed, because then you could probably have Tony Ferguson and Khabib fight each other. Brandon Cooks was traded to the Texans for a 2020 second-round pick, and Cooks and a 2022 fourth-round pick for the Texans, to the Texans for a second-round pick, which is crazy to me because the Texans just got rid of, DeAndre Hopkins for a piece of gum, and now you sign, and now you trade for Brandon Cooks. O'Brien says after the trade of DeAndre Hopkins, he said it was in the best interest for the team, and the wide receiver wanted a raise. DeAndre Hopkins was under contract for 3 more years, and his cap hit this year was $14 million before the trade. Brandon Cook's cap hit is $16.8 million, under contract for the next 4 years, but he has an out after this year. So you could have done all of this and still lose Brandon Cooks. You know, their wide receiver core is looking like Will Fuller, Kenny Stills, Randall Cobb, and Brandon Cooks. They're obviously siding on one type of play here, and it's speed. And I think that's what they're going to play on. Deshaun Watson, you know, then adding all these speed wide receiver or having all these speed wide receivers, you could just tell how they're going, you know, what route they're going here when it comes to Houston. You know, another interesting story that I read, you know, Jerry Stackhouse was on a podcast, and he said he wished he never played with Michael Jordan. And which is crazy to hear. You know, they played with each other with Washington. And basically he was just saying that he was at that time the Pistons were really on an uphill. You know, they were at their peak. So that was when they were right around the NBA Finals. You know, and that trade was for Richard Hamilton, obviously, and that added to the Pistons, you know, route to an NBA Finals. So Jerry Stackhouse was forced to go from one team, you know, that was at, like, you know, just getting to the peak of where they were, and they go to the Wizards. Like, he goes to the Wizards, and he has to deal with, you know, an older Michael Jordan that, you know, just at the time, like he just said, you know, they started to play through him, Jerry Stackhouse, and Michael Jordan didn't like that. And, you know, then it started to turn because they were playing well while the ball was going through Jerry Stackhouse. Michael Jordan didn't like that, and it changed, and so did the wins for the Wizards. So, you know, he just, you know, they say that you shouldn't play with your your idols, and that's one of the reasons, you know, that because he just, you know, and even at the time they were talking about that Kobe wanted to play with Michael Jordan. It's probably better off that they didn't play with each other. So, but it was just interesting. But the biggest thing that I want to talk about before I get out of here, you know, video games, and I want to talk about how video games are bringing athletes and fans together. And video games have kind of somewhat filled the void of missing sports in terms of betting or entertainment altogether. I mean, we've had, you know, the NBA just did an NBA tournament, you know, with players. They aired it on ESPN and this and that, and, you know, the money was going to charities and stuff like that. So, you know, this is something that we've seen a lot. I mean, I've played in a few tournaments every weekend, basically, on... you know, if you do want to play any kind of tournament, Call of Duty, NHL, NBA, Madden, FIFA, whatever it is, you can go to Long Island Legends. You know, I'm in the Long Island, you know, area, so I've played in this football league. Obviously, with everything locked down, they're not playing football now. And this is what this is what our lives have come to. We're playing tournaments now in video games. So, you know, a small fee of, like, I think we were paying like $40 for Long Island Legends. I mean, every weekend there's a different tournament. So look up lilegends.com and you'll see you can sign up for anything. Check it out. It's fun. It's interesting. They do the seeding on Instagram Live about a half hour before the tournament starts. They have the tournament Saturday and Sundays. Check it out. It's fun. You got nothing else to do, so you might as well do it. So yeah, this is what we've come down to. You know, video games have filled the void. And, you know, now even the MLB just came out. They're actually coming out with 30 representatives for each team. And, well, each team has a representative. So there's 30 players that are playing for their respective team. And it's going to be a 29-game season. 3 innings a game. They're going to, play multiple games. It's going to go for like 3 weeks. So that's going to be fun. It starts tonight, actually, Friday. It starts tonight. So definitely check that out. They're going to do, some feeds on that stuff. I'm going to see if me and Kevin maybe do some play-by-play stuff for it. And that's the content that we're going to end up getting out soon once I can get Donlin, Kevin, to get on the air with me. We're going to do some things. We're going to try to bring out some content periodically over the next however long we're going to be locked up. So, that'll basically do it. We discussed, pretty much everything that has gone on since we've dealt, since the beginning of this whole ordeal. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. You can check us out on Podchaser. Give us a review. That would be nice of you. Give us a good review, actually. Check us out. Follow us on Podchaser. Follow us as a creator. I have my own page. Kevin has his own page. Follow us through that. And that'll basically do it. Check out tpublic.com/RUTS Sports for some merch. Then become a patron of ours. And leave us a voicemail. 516-324-8725. But other than that, that will do it. I'm Jerry. Be breezy.
Be breezy.
And it is all over! You've been listening to Running Up the Score. We run up the score on Sports Radio. For more Running Up the Score, go follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at RUTS Sports.